Hi everyone, and welcome to BillyFitzgeraldGolf. And today I want to address a big issue that people come to me with, and they're scared to death of swaying. And so what swaying is when I take the club back, my whole body and everything shifts. If I had an imaginary line from this trail foot out here, everything shifts this way. So typically this right hip gets high, my weight goes out here, but I think more importantly what's happening, what people identify with, is that if I hold a club like this, that's where my bottom out point is, and if I start swaying, then obviously my bottom out point goes 3 or 4 inches behind my golf ball, and then now I have to make a couple adjustments to get that back on the ball or even in front of it, just so the face of the club can get into the ball before it gets into the ground. So what I would say is don't sweat the sway. I want you to have force in that leg, rather than weight shifts. When I think about weight shift, I think of that's exactly what I do think of, is kind of swaying back and forth. Okay, well, we just have to redirect that force. And what I mean by that is when you swing back, yes, I want you to go into your trail foot, but I want you to go back into your heel. And your hip socket this right hip socket goes back, and it allows you to get behind your golf ball to start to make room for your arms and golf club to swing. Now here's probably the two biggest things, or two biggest answers that people have come up with, not to sway when they come in to see me, is one, they just lock their leg up. Okay, so that's a big problem. Yes, you may be solving the sway issue, but you're adding a couple more problems that are probably more detrimental to your swing than swaying. So what happens if I just try to stay there is that this right hip socket locks completely up, and so which is going to lock my shoulder and my turn up. So now I've lost any ability to turn and make room and get really some a good size arc in the club and hit it from the inside. So I've really caused a lot more damage than I've done good. So just to demonstrate, if I'm scared to death of not swaying, and I get here, and so here's what happens is people just lock this leg up, and so they get here and they lock it up, and now it's just an arm swing. You're never going to hit it anywhere doing that. I mean, you may have if your grip is really good and you've got some good levers, I mean, you may be able to get out in front of you and play a little bit, but you're just making the game way too hard. The second thing I see is that, well, if I'm not going to sway, and this is the one you have to be careful with, if I'm not going to sway, then I'm just going to go to my other foot. Okay, so what starts to happen now? Now my left hip socket starts to go way down, but again, you're falling way close to the golf ball, so all your momentum is starting to go into the golf ball. So again, from down the line, if I get here, and my number 2 option or reason for not swaying is that, well, I'm just not going to go right, and I go left, right? You can see my left hip got closer to the ball, I went down, and now I'm going to have to make, another adjustment or two so I don't hit it heavy. So what we want to do is feel like instead of locking your hip up or going forward with it, you're going to redirect it. It's actually, when we study the best players in the world, there is some lateral movement moving back, but then there's a reshift or a redirect or a recenterness, whatever you want to call it, going back to the ball or even in transition. So if I were to, again, from face on, even if you feel like you get out here a little bit, as your right hip socket moves back, see, even before the club reaches the transition here, you're going to start to get going into your lead foot. So even if you have, and nobody's perfect, and I'm not saying that that you can't have any sway. I think you can have a little bit and get away with it. You just have to know how to direct the force and pay attention to what your hips are doing. So if I'm swinging back and I sway a little bit, yes, if I get into my right foot, there may be a little bit of sway, but I need to redirect that weight and redirect the force so I can get back into my left side. So that's why I said, instead of trying not to have any movement going back at all, let's use that force, let's use that momentum, you know, we've got the club going back there, so it's actually really hard to stop it from going into your back foot unless we just lean on it, which can be okay for until up to a, you know, a certain point in your set. You know, like probably 6-iron, 7-iron. Now we're going to get a little bit too steep into it. We need a little more room to feel like the club comes back down from the inside. So if we get ready to go here, you want to feel like, again, there's force directed into your foot, but it goes back into your heel, and then it recenters left. So instead of trying to stop this sway, you can just let it go back, and now redirect the force so your hip socket goes back, and now you can recenter by going left. So let's hit one. So we'll get ready to go here. So again, even if I've got some weight going back, you want to feel like it goes back into your right hip socket, and then it redirects into your left leg. But what I wouldn't do is feel like you completely stop your right hip and completely stop your weight from moving anywhere. Do that one more time. So again, face on. As we swing back, yes, there's going to be transfer of force. This is how we direct that force. It's going to go right into my right hip socket and then redirect it into my left leg. Right hip socket and then into my left leg again. So we don't stay over there. So it almost feels like the weight goes out to the right and back to the left. Almost like this right hip is doing a little half circle here. So again, as we swing, you're going to feel like it's there. So again, you're just redirecting the force here. So again, knowing how to deal with that sway, it's natural for your swing to have you go back into your trail leg. Just redirect the force, your hip socket, and you can actually use that to your advantage. Your right hip socket's going to go back away from the ball, so you start to have room to swing the club, shallow the club from the inside, you know, and make room for all kinds of conditions which we cover at impact, which is another video. But again, don't sweat it. Use it to your advantage. Redirect the force. I know this is going to help you. Like and subscribe to my channel, Billy Fitzgerald Golf. Want to take a live lesson from me, or you have a question? Visit me at BillyFitzgeraldGolf.com. And thanks for watching.